All right, let's get back to our guest tonight. Marie D. Jones is our guest. Marie, again, thank you so much for being here and giving up a couple hours on your Saturday evening.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm just like in awe listening to you talk about November, the end of December. It's like, wait a second.
I know.
Wasn't it just New Year's?
It was just New Year's, and I said that all summer, and Bill will back me up. I said it from the first show we did in January, that here we go, and look at Halloween is behind us, Thanksgiving is a couple weeks out.
I know.
We have another polar
you get so sick of people saying, "Oh, time is going by faster," but it feels like it is.
We have another polar vortex coming our way this year.
Oh, I know. It's going to be crazy. Do you know, Marie, I was going to ask when I was reading that, do you know Nicole Strickland? She's from your area.
Yes, I do. I have done a couple of events with her. She's an absolute doll. She is so great.
Yep.
She really specializes in the history of the Queen Mary. I did an event with her on the Queen Mary many years ago, and then a couple of years ago, there was a Maritime Ghost Conference here down at the San Diego Harbor where we were on, the Berkeley, and it's right next to the Star of India, and there's a haunted sub right there, and she's wonderful. She's wonderful.
Yeah, we had her on, it's been about a year ago, and just a lot of fun, and she, we actually were going to have her on a couple weeks ago, and she had a family emergency. She called or emailed me about 10 minutes before she was going to come on.
Oh, wow.
And she just couldn't do it and was so apologetic.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, hey, it's one of those things that you've got family comes first, just like with your boy. But yeah, she's great and really knowledgeable about the Queen Mary. I didn't realize how crazy that thing was.
I was just going to say I'd be real curious to listen to that, because I keep hearing, they're going to shut it down. They're not. They're doing this. They're doing that. It's changing owners. Oh, they don't want any more ghost hunters in there. They do. That's like, what the heck is going on with that ship? So I'll be curious to hear what the current situation is. I think that there were some things that happened where there were some people that, kind of messed up a little bit.
Right.
Were very disrespectful, which happens a lot, it seems, at a lot of these locations. But, yeah, the Queen Mary is so awesome. Well, I don't know if you've ever been on it, but it's
no, I haven't. I would like to.
It's really cool, really cool.
I just hope it doesn't go the way of the Love Boat and end up in Turkey in a scrapyard.
I know, and the thing is that when I was there, the last time I was there, I did talks on the Queen Mary 2 or 3 times over the years, and the last time I was there, you could kind of tell that there were things that needed to be touched up or fixed up and repaired, and it just wasn't happening. Now, it may have since then, because I do know it changed ownership. I think a Japanese company bought it. That I don't know what they were planning on doing with it, but it looked a little more in disrepair the last time I was there. But it's just, even if you just go there to hang out and you're not necessarily there for a conference, it's just one of those great old pieces of history that, like you said, we don't know how much longer it's going to be around.
Yeah. Is there talk about moving it, or are they going to is it privately owned?
The last I heard, and again, this was a few years ago, that some Japanese company had purchased it.
Go figure.
And
right?
they really wanted to sink a lot of money into, making it a big tourist destination again.
Yeah.
But it's like over the years, I'll see some paranormal group that posts on Facebook saying, oh, they're not letting anybody into the Queen Mary anymore. Something happened, and oh, no, we're going to the Queen Mary to investigate. It's like, okay. I don't know what the heck's going on with that ship. But it's really an interesting part of our history.
Well, it's, like I said, she was great to have on and very knowledgeable and a lot of stuff going on there. Let's talk about some of your books and National Bullying Prevention Month. Boy, that's a big thing.
That was last month, the month of October, and it was nice because my book with my son, Echo, which is about bullying, got to be a part of that. I mean, I wish we didn't have to have a National Bullying Prevention Month, but unfortunately we do. But what's really interesting is there are a lot of people writing, not just, nonfiction stuff about bullying, but a lot of people are incorporating it into their fiction and just to raise awareness.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I know that it's, and I'm not going to go off on a soapbox on the bullying thing, but I think that it's, in some people, I don't want them to take this the wrong way. I think this has kind of been, it's just life. It happened when I'm in my 50s, but it happened when I was a young kid.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yep.
Me too. Yep.
And all I'm saying is that today, I think sometimes some of these kids, I'm not saying bad things don't happen, especially the kids today take it to an extreme. There's shootings in these high schools and stuff,
yeah.
and I'm not trying to make light of it, but I think there's some of these kids that you got to girl up and they got to boy up a little bit, they got to man up a little bit, they got to, it's easy to be the victim, and sometimes, and everybody's situation is different, but I sometimes think that some of these parents need to talk to the kids. Kids need to stand up for themselves. And
that's what my son did. He was being bullied because he was in a wheelchair, and he found my kid is a kick-butt kid, and it affected him, his self-esteem and his confidence for a while. But he and his friends, he always had a lot of friends, and they said, "Hell, we're not taking this crap anymore. We're gonna find a way." When I was in one of the reasons why Echo is so important, it's actually dedicated to a woman who saved my life from a bully when I was in grade school back in New York. I grew up in New York.
Wow.
There was a girl who was vicious and probably would have beat the living crap out of me a few times, and had it not been for this girl named Maria, who just came out of nowhere and became my hero, and then my sister's as well. And we reunited with her on Facebook a couple of years ago, and she's now a paramedic. I mean, how wonderful is that? This is somebody who defended people from awful bullies, because the school that I went to in New York was a rough one. And now she's a paramedic saving people's lives. But then there's like extremes. There's the kids that are really heavy-duty bullied, and then I think there are kids that are made fun of because they're, they have red hair. I mean, that's like, come on.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy. The ones that end up committing suicide, my heart breaks for them. Because, I remember being a kid, and you're so just susceptible to other people's opinions. You haven't figured out yet that what other people think is really, who cares? It takes a long time to get to that point. But I think now there's a lot of books and movies and TV shows and things where bullying is sort of a part of the story, and it helps kind of get kids to realize, you know what, I can handle this.
It's a fact of life, and we got to teach. Bill's from New York. Where'd you grow up in? Where are you from in New York, Marie?
I was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I grew up in Rockland County in Haverstraw. I know, Bill, you're from the city, right?
Yes, I'm from the Bronx, and we've seen a lot of bullying when we were young.
Yeah, you probably saw more than I did. But I was, Rockland County is right across the Hudson from Westchester County. We're like the first county up from Manhattan Island. So
I'm in Orange now.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with, because my family, I'm Italian, we grew up with Italians, Irish, German, and Puerto Rican.
Wow.
And it was funny because, it was like the Puerto Ricans and the Italians hated each other. The Italians and the Irish hated each other. Yeah. The Germans were off on their own. But it was the area where a lot of immigrants came in and settled. So you had these different groups. And, the Puerto Rican kids didn't like us Italian kids. And it got pretty rough. But, but here's the thing. Then I moved to California when I was a teenager. And I was bullied then for being Italian.
Really?
Yeah. This is back in the 70s, which I thought was really ridiculous. It's like most of the people that I was in school with were either white or Mexican. So I ended up getting groups with the Mexican kids a lot, which was fine. I mean, I was friends with everybody after a while, but when I first moved here, from New York, they looked at me like I was an alien.
Really?
So, you just get a lot of that. And it doesn't happen as much now because I think schools are much more diverse,
Right.
But, yeah, it's just interesting.
You know what I noticed? You know what I noticed when I was young? If you didn't fall into line with the group or the certain peers that tried to set an example for everyone else, you were considered an outsider or strange or different, and they would ridicule you, mock you, and pick on you. That was the usual treatment that a person like that would get. See, I was never a follower. I was always a leader, so I didn't really fall into that category. But I've seen many people get picked on just because they dress differently. Maybe their parents couldn't afford to buy them the clothing. They don't understand that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And when I got into high school, I didn't give a crap. I was already writing. I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't care. I had a lot of friends, but I was kind of doing my own thing. And it just didn't matter. The cliques, I was not attracted to them at all. I didn't want to be in any of the cliques. In fact, the only clique I think I was really in was the journalism students, the writers. We all kind of hung out together. But, it's crazy. But you know what's really funny? There are just as many adult bullies, and there's just as many.
Sure.
Oh, my gosh, in the paranormal field, there's more cliques than ever.
Oh, I know.
And if you don't belong to the right cliques, you don't get on the TV shows, and you don't get to ask, to the big conventions. And, it's crazy. It's like, oh, my God, we're back in junior high school again.
Clash of the egos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we've had a few of the paranormal groups here in Utah. I'm a Chicago native. I moved out.
Oh, boy, you're a Chicago boy.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't get bullied. We dealt with it with a piece of pipe.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no. But yeah, it was funny. The groups here, the paranormal groups we've had in, and they're all great people. But I couldn't believe some of the cliquishness of it, And I used to be on this team, but I don't. Now I'm on this team, and it was like Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, or remember West Side Story?
Yes.
It really is funny. But, whatever. I mean, I think that the paranormal has definitely gone mainstream, and that's a good thing.
It is.
But, wow, some people take it to the extreme, and very strange. Does it? It reminds me of being back in school.
Yeah. What give us a little synopsis of what is ECO about?
Echo.
Sorry.
Echo. No, that's okay. Well, it's EKHO. It stands for Evil Kid Hunting Organization. And what happened was when my son was in elementary school, he was being bullied because he couldn't walk. And I didn't really know about it. I mean, I kind of thought maybe something was up, but, none of his teachers seemed that concerned. And he would talk about it now and then. Well, I started to hear him talking about this echo. And I'm like, what is echo? And he was always doing, like I said, Max, you do your homework? No, I'm doing echo mission. What? Oh, okay. I just, kind of passed off as whatever. What he was doing, and this happened from 3rd grade to 5th grade, he was creating a website with missions for the kids of Echo that he had already recruited, ranking systems, like elite, commando, they all had their own names and their own jobs.
Sure.
They were posting videos that they made of trainings that they were doing on the playground and who the kids were that, they were watching. The whole idea of Echo was to spy on the bullies. Because if you could know what the bullies were up to, you could stay ahead of them. You could sabotage. You could avoid it. That was the whole purpose of it. By the end of his 3rd grade year, it had grown to this huge deal where there were kids clamoring to be an Echo. And the bullies started a counter group called DEEP, Destroy Echo Kids Everywhere. I mean, this is all real stuff.
Yeah.
That I found out later. And I'm like, but once I learned what was going on and he showed me the website and the videos, they all had spy watches and spy pens and things. I kept getting him all this spy stuff, and I thought, he likes that stuff. I liked that stuff when I was young, too. I didn't have any idea they were all like these little spy, it was like a spy group.
Yeah.
It was so sophisticated that I was blown away. So a couple of years later, I was working with a TV producer, and I said, just out of the blue, I said, "Oh my God, my son, I got to go. He's doing his echo stuff." She said, "What's that?" And I told her about it, and she went nuts. She said, "Oh my God, that could be a TV cartoon or a TV series for kids. Oh my God, write me a treatment." So I wrote a treatment, and she shopped it around a little bit. She went to Disney and a couple other places, and they said, "Well, we would take it if it were a book series first. Really needs to be a book series for kids." And I kind of put it aside because I had other things going on. And then a couple of years ago, I signed with a literary manager, and I told her about Echo, and she said, "That's going to be your first book. Get it done." So now we have, film and TV people looking at it. So crossing our fingers, because I think it'd be a really fun series for kids. What these kids did too is they modified Nerf guns and put like spy stuff on them, and they had, I don't know where my son was getting them. He was modifying like little digital recorders and making little listening devices and stuff that they could take to school, and the teacher wouldn't know what they were. It was unbelievable that all of this stuff was going on under my nose.
Right.
And then when I finally found out about it, I thought, this is and not every kid could do this, but what a creative way for him and his bullied friends to fight back. I mean, they literally ended up becoming the popular kids and helping other kids, younger kids. My son told me, when working on Echo 2, he was telling me stories about how they had kindergarten and first grade buddies because they were the older kids, and how some of those little kids would come to them and say, somebody's pushing me around or somebody hurt me in the bathroom, and the Echo kids would go to their defense. And it was just amazing.
It is.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I hope it really takes off for you, and somebody picks it up and you make a series or whatever out of it. I mean, that would be really cool.
I think it'd be a blast. Yeah, it's just a really fun thing. And of course, we've added in, some extra fun sci-fi stuff to kind of amp it up a little too. So, yeah, it's wild. He's older now. He's 13 now. But he still just has such fond memories. And I asked him, I said, "Do you have any idea if Echo is still going on at the grade school you went to?" And he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. But I think that would be hilarious if the kids have carried on the legacy.
And now there's assassins out there really killing people.
Yeah. It's scary. But you know what? When you can get kids that and they used a lot of their gaming skills when they came up with their missions. And if you can get kids to be resourceful like that, I mean, it makes me feel good about his future, that he can be that resourceful.
Sure. No, that's cool. I mean, that's all I could tell you is that's just cool.
Yeah.
Marie, I got a question just to change the pace a little bit. I see that you wrote a book on supervolcanoes in the past. What are your thoughts on Yellowstone?
Well, I wrote that book with my dad. He passed away a few years ago. We were planning on writing another book, but he died of ALS, which, awful, horrible disease. And when we wrote the book, we wrote about a supervolcano in the past that really literally changed our genetic makeup. But we also wanted to present a current scenario of what would happen if there was a super eruption today. And we had two choices. We had the choice of Yellowstone, which everybody knows about, everybody talks about. But there was a supervolcano here in California that my dad said was even more deadly, called Long Valley. And the reason being that it's closer to being, ready to blow. It's possibly linked tectonically to the San Andreas Fault, to where if a large quake went off on the southern San Andreas, it could trigger a super eruption at Long Valley. And unlike Yellowstone, Long Valley is closer to enough urban areas that more people would be immediately, killed. So we ended up using Long Valley as the scenario. But we talked about Yellowstone, too. I mean, Yellowstone is massive, and it's not ready to go by any means. But here's the problem. The last supervolcanic eruption occurred 28,000 years ago in New Zealand. We don't have a written record of what happens to lead up to a super eruption. We just have educated guesses based on, the geological record and ash deposits and things like that. So, my dad said here, when you hear about the microquake swarms at Yellowstone and the caldera is starting to lift a little bit, people panic because they don't know if those are precursors or just normal behavior, normal activity of a big caldera like that.
You even have these earthquakes in Oklahoma. They say it's probably due to fracking, but
fracking, absolutely. Absolutely, fracking causes earthquakes. I saw today on one of the news sites that Nevada is having massive earthquake swarms, and they could be ready to experience a huge earthquake. I mean, and that's close enough, I think, to, where is Yellowstone? Wyoming?
Montana.
God, I'm way off. So if you think about, if a huge earthquake occurs even 100 miles away, could it trigger, the ground movement to get that lava flowing under the caldera or the magma, and it just bursts? But yeah, Yellowstone is scary. People don't realize that if that thing blows, we will go into a nuclear winter for about 6 or 7 years.
I stand corrected. It is in Wyoming. I'm sorry.
Is it Wyoming? Yeah, I just have never been there. And I get it mixed up all the time with Yosemite.
That's
here in California. Yeah, it's like, oh God.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, there also may be a supervolcano now under the Mount St. Helens area. So that is really scary because that's probably one of the most active areas in the country for everything. So
yeah, it's
you don't know if it's coming though. So why worry about it?
Yeah. Well, it's like I don't know if you guys have been watching this. I think it's actually beautiful, but talk about slow-moving deadliness. Is the lava in Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! It's like it's slowly coming to eat up your house.
It's like the blob.
Yeah.
You guys want to laugh about Bob. What about that garbage thing floating in the Pacific that's the size of Texas?
Yeah.
Oh, is that part of the Fukushima deal?
Some of it is, but a lot of it is just pure junk, garbage.
Yeah. We have a lot of trash barges out in the ocean, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, what I don't know where else you're going to put it, but we just need to stop putting out so much trash.
What a nasty bunch of creatures we are.
I know. I shouldn't say that because pigs are very clean.
No,
yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm more afraid of asteroids.
Maria, I also was looking at another one of your books where you mentioned the 0-point grid. Is that something that exists where entities or beings in a consciousness can communicate with each other?
It's possible. The 0-point grid was Larry Flaxman, was our take on the 0-point field, which is sort of a generative foundational state of matter. But we didn't like the idea of presenting anything like a field. A field is two-dimensional. And we came up with the idea of the grid as a three-dimensional infrastructure for reality, and that includes other levels of reality. We call it the grid. Some people call it the 0-point field. Other people call it the Akasha, the source, whatever. There's all kinds of names for this concept of a hidden order that connects everything and is sort of the foundational level of reality, but not just our reality. I mean, if you look at all the attention that's been paid now to the idea of the multiverse and parallel universes and alternate dimensions, we may be talking about a hidden infrastructure that is made up of an infinite number of realities. We're just existing on one. And so maybe everything that we call paranormal is us experiencing for a very short period of time another level of reality.
So
we do that sometimes voluntarily, when we meditate or
that's exactly where I was going to go.
Yeah.
So from a metaphysical aspect, if you're using meditation, is it possible to communicate with a spiritual guide, lost loved ones?
My feeling is if there are an infinite number of other realities out there, that means there's an infinite number of stuff. And that includes every, cryptids could. One of the reasons why the field of ufology, even ghosts and cryptids, it's so elusive, is because there are a lot of sightings that people report where whatever they're seeing, let's say it's a cryptid, it's a black cat with red glowing eyes or what have you, or even Bigfoot. Think about it. Why can't anybody find Bigfoot? Well, maybe Bigfoot is coming in and out of another dimension.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, I do too, because it makes sense. And there have been so many sightings of entities, even ghosts and cryptids, where the people, UFOs, where the people say it literally appeared immediately and then kind of flickered a little and vanished from view. They're not saying it ran into the woods. They're saying it literally, my husband and I were out for a walk at 9 o'clock at night, and right in front of us, something flickered and appeared, and there was a black cat with red glowing eyes, and then it just flickered and almost made like a electrical popping sound, and just boom, it was gone. And a lot of UFO sightings.
I always thought like of ghosts or those type of apparitions as possibly being beings that are from a parallel world, maybe a parallel Earth, and they cross over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, but you could be seeing into a different timeline as well.
That's true too, exactly.
And you could
or a frozen timeline.
That are alive, and we think they're dead, but they're alive in a different timeline. And that could explain why a lot of people see entities and ghosts that are wearing period clothing, like from the 1700s or what have you. But I think with UFOs, it's probably the clearest, because so many of the sightings that we had with MUFON, they didn't sound like, something flew across the sky and then I saw it shoot off into the space. No, a lot of them it looked like a projection. Like somebody literally turned on a movie projector, and there was the craft, and then it just sort of flickered and disappeared. And that speaks to the possibility of coming from another dimension, but also the holographic universe principle.
Do you have any opinion on past lives or reincarnation?
I absolutely think that they make sense. I feel like if there are these other realities, these other levels of the grid or the field, whatever you want to call it, there are other timelines. I think physicality is only allowed to be present in one of them. But when we die, I think that, consciousness goes wherever it wants to. It doesn't make sense to me, even in a scientific sense, it doesn't make sense that we were put here to live these complex lives and then just be stuffed out at the end. Boom, fade to black, nothing. It doesn't make sense. It makes more sense that the body is a temporary vehicle, and there's something, consciousness, mind, whatever you want to call it, that will go into another dimension or another level of reality where maybe the laws of physics are a little bit different, a different timeline, what have you. And that could very well be why so many people see ghosts of loved ones, because there is that essence in them, but it's not necessarily here.
Right,
it's
right,
in another reality. And that's what makes the ghost sightings so inconsistent, and they're so erratic, and they rarely repeat themselves in the same way twice.
What do you think about psychics and mediums? Do you think that do you think it's a dog and pony show, Marie, or do you believe there's people that really can see beyond the veil, that can see other things?
I think we all can. I think if one person has the ability, we all do, because we all have the same parts.
Yeah.
like some people can sing, some can't, but everybody can sing. Some can sing well, some can't. I think the vast majority of people who claim to be psychics or mediums are full of crap, and that's just my experience with them. Some of them may be highly intuitive, which I am myself, but that doesn't, make me a bona fide psychic. I have really good gut instinct. I have good intuition. And I think that those are things that can be developed in anybody. The people that have a gift, though, I do believe that there is that grid of information, that field of information that people can tap into. I think that's where remote viewing comes into play. Psychic abilities, precognition, being able to predict the future, past life vision, deja vu. I think those are all examples of tapping into this field of information that includes past, present, and future. Because outside of the human brain, time exists all at once. And I think we all have the ability, even for writers like me, when we get an idea, where does that idea come from? People say, oh, your imagination. Well, what does that mean? I think that there's this field of information that we're tapping into when we get ideas, when we experience something that's really inspiring, when we get information that we shouldn't have. For example, I know that every now and then I am able to remote view. Doesn't happen all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm not good at it, but I think what I'm simply doing is tapping into that field of past, present, and future, that landscape, and seeing something that my five senses normally shouldn't be able to perceive.
Very interesting. Well, and like you said, with your work, it's about being inspired, and inspiration, I believe, can be an outside source.
And what does the word inspire mean? In spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I really do. I feel like I've heard like Stephen King, and I've heard a number of other very successful writers say that they feel like the stories are telling themselves through you. You're not really doing anything except writing it down. And people that have written great, great composers have also talked about how they almost feel like they're channels, that this stuff is coming from somewhere else and it's coming through them. And you get into the metaphysical realm with this a little bit, but at the same time, there is a scientific foundation for this belief in a field of information that we can tap into and that we probably come from and return to when we die. It's a generative foundational field of reality.
Well, the mind is a powerful thing. I mean, you even have the capability of self-healing. If you tell yourself that you're going to feel better, you feel better. If you think you're going to be sick, you feel sick. So,
absolutely.
The mind is a powerful tool, resource.
How many times a day do you say, oh, man, I'm sick and tired of this? And then it's like at the end of the day, you're sick and tired.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I firmly believe that. I think our minds are so much more powerful than we give them credit. And you talk about the paranormal, I think the mind is an untapped realm of the paranormal that we need to pay more attention to.
I agree. You think that, speaking of paranormal or energy or essence or spirit, do you think that we all have picked this route in life? I hear that so many times.
Destiny versus choice?
Yeah.
I wrote that book. Oh, God. Oh, that's like everything happens for a reason. Well, I don't know if I agree with that, because I think sometimes things happen because you make them happen.
Right.
Or you let them happen. But at the same time, there is a part of me that firmly believes in destiny, because since I was very little, knew. I knew what I was going to do with my life. And I know not everybody is lucky enough to know that. Some people find out later. And I know that all the times that I've deviated from it, I've suffered. Excuse me. So in a sense, you could say that I kind of had a destiny. But I also have the choice to change that at any moment.
Right.
Not listen to it. Not pursue it. Resist it. But I like the idea that we choose ahead of time what we're going to experience in this incarnation. I think it would help explain a lot of suffering. But I also don't want to use that as an excuse to let suffering happen and not try to stop it. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does, actually, yeah.
It does.
It's like, I like the idea that there's a reason why, somebody comes into the world and they die at the age of 5.
Right.
There's a reason. But at the same time, I don't want to ever just say, oh, that child was shot and killed or, beaten and raped at the age of 5. But that was their destiny, and just ignore it, because that makes us purposeless as human beings if we're not fighting to end suffering.
Right.
It's a fine line. But sometimes I think, oh, man, I feel like I know this person and I've known them in another life, and I think we all meet people like that. Or you experience something over and over again. It's like, what the heck? This must have something to do with some terrible thing I did.
It's funny you say that, because how many dreams do you have where you're in a place you've never seen before, or seen people you've never seen before?
I know. Who are these people? And a lot of times they're the same, from like one dream to another. You'll meet the same people. And I have always felt that dreams were another dimension. That
They're
you
the
were
Langoliers.
I love that. Oh, I love that movie.
That was good. Good book.
Yeah. Except for the end when they actually showed the chomping things. They were,
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
the little Razor Pac-Mans.
That was a crazy movie. I mean, they were trapped in a sort of time warp, where all this other stuff was going on. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of weird because how that plane we were talking about before, the Malaysian 370, how it just vanished.
I remember the Langolier.
I was thinking about that movie when that happened.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, oh, come on, guys, it's too soon.
Marie, there's a question from the chat room. Neutron wants to know have you ever gotten writer's block, and how do you get out of it when you do?
I used to. I can't afford writer's block anymore because I have a manager and an agent and a lot of deadlines, and if I don't meet them, I get in big trouble. But, yeah, I used to. When I didn't have somebody hanging over my head, cracking the whip, it was really hard. I should say I still get it now and then, but I've been writing so much that I've learned how to get through it, and that is to just sit your ass down and write. And even if you write pure crap for 3 hours, you'll get through the block, because it's there.
Well, we were just talking about dreams. Did you ever get an idea for something from a dream?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm working on a horror series down the road that came from a dream. Really, really creepy. I've never done pure horror, and this one came from a series of dreams that I kept having that I thought, this is really sick. I gotta write this down.
Yeah. And your books are available at mariedjones.com, right?
Everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. They should be in, regular bookstores. And
okay.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
How many books you got in the work? You got do you have a whole slew of them out there lined up for you?
I just turned in number 13 for nonfiction. Next year I will have 4 novel series that debut.
Wow.
Echo 2 and a nonfiction book called Bug.
Wow.
Next year's going to be nuts, yeah.
So you need December as a break.
You know what? I can't. I have a book that's due the end of this month, and then I have Echo 2. But I'm going to take Thanksgiving Day off, and I'm going to take Christmas Day off. That's it. When you're a writer, it's like you got to get that output.
Yeah.
But I'm really hard on I'm a slave driver to myself.
What do you do your best writing? Are you a start early in the morning kind of author? Do you ever get up at 11 o'clock at night and go till 4 in the morning?
You know what? You always hear people say, write every day, and I don't. I am a sit and start writer where I'll go for days, weeks even, writing in my head, and then I sit down, and in a week I can bang out a first draft of something. But I get up early, get up at 5 a.m. I usually start writing about 7, and I, write on and off till maybe 4 or 5, and then if I want to do a little bit more at night, it's usually outlining or plotting, or if I'm doing nonfiction, it's research.
Right.
But I don't write every day. I'm not one of those people. I'll go for a long time writing everything in my head, and then boom, I sit down and just bang it out.
I'm in the process. I've got them pretty well wrapped up. I've got to go through the cleanup. I've got 3 books that I finished last year, actually.
Awesome! You finished. You're like totally way ahead of the curve.
Well, I shouldn't say they're done. I guess they're done to a point in my head, but they're just fun fiction reads and stuff. And I'm not putting them through a publisher. I'm just going to push them out through the show and stuff like that, and they'll be done next year. But everyone takes a little different approach at writing. And for me, what I had to do is I would get the writer's block. And what I ended up doing, and I don't know if you ever heard of this before, I actually storyboarded my whole book out, each book out.
I know people that do that. I can't draw, but I know people that do.
Yeah, I can't draw either, but a stick figure, and you can make a girl.
You know what?
Yeah.
That works wonders. And for me, index cards.
Yeah.
Where you literally put, and that's a screenwriting trick, where you put a scene on an index card and then you can kind of shuffle them and move them around and, throw some away and add some. But, yeah, storyboarding is great. I've heard of a number of people that do that. And that helps you kind of visualize the story and get through the block.
I actually did that, and I started at the middle of the book and kind of wrote out to the beginning and wrote out to the end. And now I've just got to get all 3 of them cleaned up. It's a series. It's just a fun read, not big books or anything.
Yeah, but you know what? People are self-publishing, and fiction is really exploding because people want to, for their Kindles and their Nooks and their whatevers, they want just good fiction. And people really like series because they don't want to just stop at one book because you miss the characters. You kind of want to carry it on through a couple of books.
Right.
So that's great. But, Jack, you're way ahead of the game. You don't know how many writers come to me. I've been trying to finish this book for 5 years. It's like, well, why haven't you finished it? Well, I don't have time. Well, who does? Quit making excuses.
Right.
Just finish the damn thing.
Get it done and get moved on.
And just getting a first draft down, it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least you've got the basics down. Now you go back, you edit, you fix it up.
Right. And what I did is I looked at other books for examples.
Yeah, I love that, yeah. I read a lot. You read a lot of fiction, and it kind of motivates you and inspires you. Yeah. And, the funny thing is for me, I don't know if you do this, I always come up with a title first and the title will then evolve into its story.
Drive the book.
And,
yeah.
I don't know if anybody else does that, but that's just, I come up with a title and then the story just sort of evolves around the title.
Whatever works. Marie, 2 hours has flown by.
I know it.
I know, but I want to thank you for I know you were doing a lot of interviews this year, and I know you got a lot of work on your plate. I want to thank you for touching base, and hopefully we can touch base next year again sometime and just chat and have some fun. It was fun.
I would love to. I'd love to come back on. I'll make sure you guys get a copy of Mind Wars. I think that'll be an interesting show to do.
Absolute pleasure, Marie. Have a great night.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, too. Thanks, guys. Have a great Saturday night. Bye-bye.
Okay, Marie, take care. God bless.